Hello, everyone. We're joined today by Brian Solis. Brian is a globally recognized independent digital analyst and anthropologist. He is also an award winning author, a prominent writer, a world renowned keynote speaker, and the Global Innovation Evangelist at Salesforce. Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us. We're very pleased to have you with us today.
Hello, it is such a pleasure. And hello, everyone.
Brian, although we could have a conversation for many, many hours around a lot of things, let's just jump in and try to understand what is the new normal given this rapid digital transformation we have seen with the pandemic.
Well, sure. I mean, it's, I guess it's anything but normal. I know that as human beings, we want things to return at least to some type of familiarity, some type of normal that we know. But I'm a as the global innovation at Salesforce, it's my job to think about new and different ways to create value and to
Right.
create value in any number of things, whether it's as simple as something like, well, not simple, but it's something as human as switching your mindset or your perspective to see things differently, to creating new products and services, to rethinking operational models. And all of this is now possible in a world where there is no normal. And so that what that means is that we have an opportunity to be the architects of an entirely new future that wouldn't have been possible without this disruption. Uh, Even though, look, to just be honest, this pandemic has been absolutely devastating all around the world,
Right.
and it's it's gotten it's gotten us to think differently about our own lives and how we want to live, what we value, how we define happiness and success. And I think that we should carry those same emotions and those same insights and the same philosophical thinking to how we work and why we work, and to help reimagine businesses to be much more purposeful, much more human centered, to promote employee wellness, health, safety, and happiness, and also to take those same motivations to make customer experiences much more exciting and enchanting, and to
Right.
rethink businesses moving forward to be greater than they were before the pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, given that we are looking at basically a paradigm shift in the way we are thinking or where we are imagining businesses and customer experience, as well as the expectations from customers to be engaged by a brand. So, does that mean that companies are now fundamentally looking at technologies or need to look at technology in a different aspect? Or is it more of the same, just use the new and newest and the greatest and try to create something around that? Or is it fundamentally the way that we think about technology?
I really appreciate this question. Obviously, I am in the technology business,
Right.
and I had the opportunity to work with customers all around the world on their digital transformations. And what I find fascinating and also hopeful is that I am now, for the first time in the 20 plus years I've been in the technology industry, getting questions that aren't technology centered. So what that means is, if you think about digital transformation going back to, gosh, I started writing about it in 2014. In those early days, it was very much IT driven and very much digital. Uh,
Right.
Moving to the cloud was a big imperative to help organizations modernize legacy infrastructures, legacy systems, legacy processes. We saw, rapid app development. We saw DevOps. We saw so many things really start to accelerate in wonderful ways. But it really was centered on the digital and digital transformation. Now, because of this disruption, we are we are in a way pushed to see the humanity of this transformation, right? So I'll give you an example. Employee experience has skyrocketed to the top of a lot of investments because, well, we all had to work from home, and none of us were properly trained to suddenly have to work from home. You have on one side the digital infrastructure had to support a remote workforce
Right.
overnight, and on the other side you had people who may or may not have had workspace in their home, but suddenly had everyone in their home trying to work during a pandemic, and also manage their families, manage their personal lives, manage their children's schooling. And that was very emotionally and psychologically difficult for people. So now, decision makers, now executives, now managers are prioritizing employee wellness, for example. That isn't in of itself technology centered, but
Right.
it is technology enabled. So that
Right.
we give technology a sense of purpose and meaning. The same is true for customer experiences. So on one side, you had people who suddenly had to shop from home, everything
Right.
from home, support a digital infrastructure for e-commerce, and then on the other side, support a better customer experience, a digital first customer experience for people who then had to engage with businesses differently in every stage of the journey. So what that means is that we then gave customers and employees a more purposeful experience of which then technology could deliver against those expectations. So it's just a long way of saying that we're now we're now putting people at the center of a lot of these investments, to deliver better experiences throughout their journeys, throughout their life cycles, and hopefully in ways that lead to what my colleague Henry King and I call relationship transformation, putting
Right.
relationships at the center of your digital transformation so that you can build relationships using your technology investments in ways that help grow over time.
That's a very interesting way of kind of looking at technology from the point of emotion first, or how does that technology really enable a relationship that we're building with the customer? So one question here that comes to mind, with the advent and widespread uses of robotic process automation, where we are looking at communicative AI, natural language communication, where or how does a brand balance the need or the efficacy of using technology versus the idea of creating that human contact or human connect?
This is a really important question as well. So it comes back to my last answer. There's a difference when you get into the mindset of RPA, automation, artificial intelligence. Of let's say, for example, if you've ever had to contact customer service, it's probably rare, if not impossible, to walk away from that experience and say, "Wow, I really loved contacting customer service." It's usually very painful. It's usually very frustrating. If you look back to the last 50 or 60 years of technology investments in the call center, it's really been about distancing people from representatives,
Right.
trying to trying to automate the process, trying to enable self-service. If you look at IVRs, for example, I just had a session with an IVR, with a major utility company in California that was absolutely painful. Just trying to pay a bill using the system took it took 25 minutes. I was keeping track of the number of prompts I was given in order to do this, and at some point I just gave up because it was just the paper was full of check marks.
Wow.
Uh, so the reason I share this with you is because how we're approaching chatbots, RPA, automation today is with this same mindset, not thinking about what is the user experience on the other side of this. It's just more of functionality. Let's get this done. Let's enable this. Let's enable this, without actually thinking about the user-centered perspective or the user experience on the other side of this. So, for example, if you take that same mindset of click one for this, click two for this, now enter your account number, and you bring that mindset into the design of a chatbot, you're going to have a very horrible user experience. The
Right.
idea now is to think differently. Like, what is the best user experience in the market today? Is that, for example, I'm just making this up. In the United States, we I use DoorDash quite a bit. Uh, just because it's hard to cook every single day from home. But
Yeah.
the interactions that I have with that chatbot are designed with a more digital first brain in mind. Someone who's, think about it, uh, always distracted, moving
Right.
fast, moving on a small screen. And so if you were to design for that brain, for that mindset, you would orchestrate a chatbot much more conversational. So this is why natural language, conversational I think represent a different opportunity to deliver a better user experience if the technology can do it. If we as human beings, as systems architects, as conversational architects, can think differently about the experience. And that's true, by the way, not just in chatbots, but every aspect of the experience. Everything can be redesigned. I call it experience design or experience architecture. You're designing for an experience in a moment. And what does that word mean? The word experience is actually an emotional reaction to a moment. So if I am talking to customer service or trying to talk to customer service or engaging with an IVR or engaging with a chatbot that makes me feel angry or upset or not valued, then that is my experience. So you have to now use technology to design. Think about Disney World or Disneyland. You design for that emotion. And I think technology with AI and automation and machine learning, and as quickly as all of this is advancing, can now deliver better experiences in the moment if you design them that way for
Right.
customers and also employees. I don't believe, for example, any customer service representative enjoys delivering a bad experience. I
Of
think that
course.
technology can help them deliver better experiences and help them feel happier too.
Makes sense. Uh, so if we talk about it, maybe to coin a phrase, emotional first design of technology, how does or what does a company, an organization need to, what is the checklist that they need to go through to create this new way of thinking, not only from a tech stack, but also from a mindset perspective? How do the senior executives, how do the leaders actually change that mindset from, hey, just let's put the technology and get things done quicker, to, hey, let us actually understand the emotion behind that interaction with the customer? What has to fundamentally change there?
That's a deep question, very philosophical. Probably one that'll take an hour to answer. Honestly, earlier when we talked about innovation in mindsets, I think this is really where it begins. Today, we view technology investments as not investments, but as cost centers that take
Right,
away from the bottom line. And they're arduous. For years, we've been investing in technology and it's gotten more expensive. Things got more complicated. Some things became dated. And so executives tend to think of technology in whatever aspect of it is, whether it's customer service, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, as things that take away from profitability and margins. So the really where we begin is shifting in the mindset to say, why are we doing any of this? What's the outcome of taking on all of these investments, bringing on new talent and personnel to help us with these investments? What is the outcome? Well, the outcome is you now live in a world where there is no new normal. There is no
mhm,
playbook, honestly. And
right,
what we're going to see is a time of great invention. And when there's a time of great invention, that means that the standards for competitiveness change. And that means that the standards for experiences and preferences change. And so now customers want things to be more digital, more efficient, more personal, more swifter for sure, and simpler, and even enchanting. So, with that said, that mindset also needs to shift to say, who is our customer? What do they value? Why would they continue to do business with us? What do we represent without even talking about technology? What do we represent in this new world? What do we stand for? And why will people continue to do business with us when they're changing? If they're
right.
changing, that means we must change. So I believe that we have to start with mindset. Most of the time, when I work with executives, they all want to do the right thing. but they're not their customers. They're so far removed from what it's like to actually do business with the organization that it's hard for them to be inspired by the humanity of these types of investments. So that's where we begin. And then from there, we could reimagine the entire organization, how we operate, how technology works within that operation. With, for example, some of the work that we're doing at Salesforce is around helping businesses become customer centered, not from a philosophy like, yes,
Right.
the customer is at the center of everything we do. It's literally now at the center of everything we do. So can we connect the dots for the customer to have one seamless experience from department to department? Can we enable that data and using artificial intelligence bring insights to life for our representatives to engage them in much more personal ways, to surface things that are going to be much more relevant to them in real time, in the contextual environment of where they are in their journey? That that is powerful. And once you become organizationally and technologically customer centered, you create a new standard for what it means to do business. And then suddenly everybody's going to have to compete against that. So that's where it really starts, I think, is that mindset. And then we could design for example, what is the experience you have today? What do you love about it?
Right.
What do you hate about it? What are you missing? What do you love about that experience you get from your favorite startup or your favorite game or your favorite social media app? And can we bring those types of design cues into our business? There's nothing to say that we only have to look at our direct competitors for ideas.
True.
It's probably going to limit our ability to innovate. So this is that magic moment where, or a control alt delete moment, whatever you want to call
Right.
it, where we don't have to think the same way. We can't think the same way as we used to. We can't look at success the same way that we used to. We can't look at these things as cost centers the way we used to. This is that moment. You get that one moment now to do all of the things that we probably should have done over the last 20 or 30 years to be much more competitive and much more successful by delivering happier, better, more enchanting personal experiences.
Makes sense. So this basically is the watershed moment for us in customer experience going forward. So Brian,
And employee experience.
exactly, experiential technology. So what are the best examples of this new paradigm of thinking that you have seen? Who do you think so far is getting it right around this right path? And yeah, just if you could share some examples of what you see or who you see doing it right.
Well, there's a lot of people doing it right, a lot of organizations doing it right, because they have the intention of designing the organization for the modern customer and not assuming that everybody's just going to continue to do business with you the way that you used to, and you're using technology to make that better, more efficient, more scalable. So for example, I was working with Hassan's. They're an incredible company that I think started in the late 1800s, and they make luxury beds, for example, and this is essentially 100-plus-year-old company that is operating like a startup. And the way that they're using technology to be innovative is by putting the customer at the center of what they're doing. They realize that the customer is not only digital first, but they want that digital first like experience even when they walk into a store. And if you think about it, what a digital first experience is essentially treating people like VIPs. And that mindset starts with, I want my customers to feel valued. I want my customers to feel like they're the only customer that we have. We value their business, and we want to remind them of how much we value them in every stage, every touch point, whether
Right.
that's a chatbot, whether that's our website, whether that's speaking with the representative on the phone, whether that's coming into the store. So they've used then technology with that purpose of how do we connect those dots to deliver those types of an experience. And that means that they have insights as to who the customer is, what they value, what how they should design journeys to deliver against that. And they use data in real time in order to be able to deliver more personalization in those touch points. And it's organizational wide. So it's not Service is just focusing on its technology. Marketing is doing its own thing. Sales is using its own systems, and none of these things interact. They're actually making decisions to operate as one company for the customer. And it's remarkable to see a company of that age with the zeal and the ambition and the excitement that you would see from a startup in Silicon Valley. So I say that because essentially what we're looking at with this example is a company that is holistically changing, not just incrementally changing, not just improving or rolling out new technology to try to keep up with trends. It's looked at this watershed moment as an opportunity to change how it wants to compete, and it's doing it quite remarkably.
That is a great example, especially where a company carrying so much legacy, for them to be able to change their mindset, as you said, to function like a Silicon Valley startup is truly amazing. Now, maybe a very technical question is to support this change, how does a basic CRM need to change? How do companies need to look at that most basic of technology integrations to be able to start delivering this kind of an experience for its customers?
I think CRM is going to go through a renaissance. Well, it is going through a renaissance. Again, it's going to come back to mindset. So when we talk about CRM, there's a letter in there that is really important. The R,
Right,
relationships. And the more you talk to me, the more you'll see I just kind of break things down to basics. The word relationship, like the word experience, right? It's emotional. It's mutual value between people, right? And if I feel like I'm getting that value, I want to give into that relationship. And CRM is the technology that facilitates the desired relationship you want to have. So this is why Henry King and I talk about relationship transformation. Essentially, it's giving a purpose to CRM beyond just a system of record to
right.
become a system of relationship development or cultivation. So again, it's this mindset of we're not investing in a CRM, we're investing in a platform that allows us to cultivate the type of relationships that we said we want to have and that we want to deliver. So that's why we take a step back and we first try to articulate what should that relationship look like. And then the CRM, the platform itself becomes that system of enablement for that relationship. So that is everything from input to how we use the data that's in the system to deliver the types of experiences that define the relationships that we have. And look, with now the connectedness between CRM and you look at, for example, in our case, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, we have Tableau, we have MuleSoft to connect all the dots behind the scenes. We have the ability to help companies now turn a CRM into that platform for relationships, that platform for better experiences that are defined one engagement at a time. Because what you as the customer, for example, are going to remember is how did you feel when you did business with that company? And that memory is so powerful. That's how you will recall that business. If you feel great
Right.
or if you feel, I can't. I've got to make time to call the company. I feel all of this anxiety. So that's
Right.
how I think about CRM. It's a platform now for facilitating the relationships that you want, keeping the information in the system that you want to be able to use to extract through for data insights, the type of experiences, the personalization that's necessary. All of that stuff is what is going to enable this from the customer's perspective, exactly what they want. So one last thing, if you think about the customer,
Right.
uh, especially as they become digital first, I call
Mhm.
them accidental narcissists or digital narcissists. In that, every time you use this, you are the
Right.
most important person in the world. Everything's not even fast enough. If you think about the stress that you carry every single day, if your battery is low, if you don't have service, if there's no Wi-Fi, these are real things that stress people out. So that's the mindset that the customer is bringing in. So if you think about CRM, or if you think about the integration of your systems, you're trying to deliver against that very fast, very high expectations, very discerning, very impatient customer.
Right.
Uh, and technology is now moving at the speed of the customer, so that you could facilitate the types of engagement, which means you need that connectedness in order to be able to facilitate those types of engagements that deliver against their expectations. And then also with experience design, exceed them. And that's what we're talking about now. We're not just
Right.
another system to track all of these records. It's about building that platform for those relationships.
Absolutely. And I love the way you kind of that idea of being accidental narcissist, right? And having it be customer first, and the customer being the most important person, the VIP, the white glove service. Brian, although we could just continue to talk for hours on this subject, I'd like to ask you one final question to kind of wrap this segment up, and hopefully we can again connect and discuss further. So, Brian, what are the mantras, according to you, for any executive, any company looking to venture out into this brave new frontier? What are the do's and what are the don'ts?
The number one question I get right now is, after I convince somebody to think differently about how they approach the market, is where do I start? And I
Right.
think a good place to start is with your customer. Honestly, if you haven't gone through your own experience of your company, it's very it's impossible to feel empathy. And empathy, I think, is a powerful world and a word and a powerful skill that we need more today. In that we have to be able to understand how someone else sees or feels that experience, and then we also have to be able to understand what they value, not just in our business, but just in the world, so that we
Right.
can become more culturally relevant, more relevant to people. Because if you're bringing mindsets that, success is a poor teacher, in that if you're bringing the mindset that you've had for years, decades, however long it's been as an executive, to today's opportunities, then you're making decisions based on the past in order to compete for the future. And that's actually not going to work. You have to be much more agile and nimble, like the technology itself, scalable, uh, accelerate, so that you could accelerate your own personal transformation in order to drive relationship transformation. So I think that's really where it starts. Is the advice is how you made decisions made you successful, and that's fantastic. Now we need everyone to open their minds and also open their hearts to see how the world has changed, how the pandemic has changed people's values, their aspirations, their expectations, their preferences. Data, thankfully, can help us get there. And in order to make decisions, we now have to take chances that we might not otherwise have felt comfortable, because the world used to be normal. We used to be able to operate at business as usual. Uh, but now I need everybody to be the next Elon Musk. I need everyone to be the next Steve Jobs. I need everyone to be the next innovator, as if you were running a startup. Because no matter how old or successful your business is, the world has changed and the world is going to continue to change. And we need a control alt delete in leadership. And that starts with mindsets. You can't lead the future the way that you led the past. So that means that this is an opportunity for you, me, and everyone to think differently from a human centered perspective, to drive the type of change that people value, people love, because you're rewarded for that in everything that business defines as success.
True. Absolutely. So I really want to thank you, Brian, for taking the time to join us today. It was a very, very interesting conversation, and I'm sure it's going to have people fundamentally thinking differently about how they are approaching their customer experience, or the journey of why they're implementing technology or how they're implementing technology. We should definitely do this again, and perhaps do a deeper dive into some of the questions that we raised here today. Um,
I look forward to it.
Thank you so much. I also want to thank everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to having you on the next conversation. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care.